Hi, I'm Kat from the Wild Alaskan Company recipe team. I'm hosting this from Brooklyn, New York. Today, I'm going to be covering the absolute basics of grilling seafood. I'm going to grill a few different species here that are prepared a few different ways, just very basic building blocks of grilling. It's really fun when you're confident to grill seafood because it's fast, it's easy, and it makes you look really, really cool. You will definitely all be very much more comfortable grilling after you see how easy this is here. So let's go ahead and start doing some grilling here. Like I said, just absolute basics of grilling seafood. We're doing nothing fancy. This is just the building blocks for cooking whitefish, salmon. I'm not going to be doing something like shrimp today, but we will have an event in the next few weeks for shrimp. So to me, grilling seafood always sounded way more intimidating than grilling anything else, even maybe more intimidating than pan-searing a fillet of salmon. I'm not exactly sure why, but really it's so simple. It's fire, it's fish. There's really nothing that much more elemental or basic than that, right? So I have a few species that I'm going to show you here today. I have rockfish. I'm just using like one fillet out of my pack. I've got some skin on sockeye. We are definitely leaving the skin on when we're grilling here because that's going to be our friend in keeping things extra juicy. I also have a fillet of halibut that I have marinating in this baggie that doesn't look that appealing right now in marinade, but it's going to taste delicious. So let me go ahead and take out this halibut from this pack. The first step that we're going to do for any species of fish that we're cooking is we want to make sure that we pat the fish dry. And yes, that means even fish that's been marinated. I know it seems like you want to keep all of those juices on there, but they've already done a lot of the work because they've been marinating into that like superficial layer of the fish. I have, like I said, the rockfish, sockeye, already patted those dry with the halibut. We're not going to worry too much if there's a bunch of marinade on there, but any excess, just go ahead and blot that off. These are almost ready to throw on the grill. We've just got a basic backyard grill. We're using gas. I have the dials turned all the way up. And what I'm actually looking for with the temperature dial is around like 400 degrees. You want the grill to be pretty hot. Feel free to adjust them as needed. Obviously, when you're opening up the grill, it's going to let out a lot of that heat, but you want to make sure that the grates are nice and hot before you put any fish on there. You also want to make sure they're clean. I did give this a scrub earlier, just with like a grill scrubby brush, typical kind of grill maintenance. And then after that, especially because fish is so lean, you want to go ahead and just put some oil on a paper towel, kind of like this. I just have some olive oil and lightly oil the grates. Any vegetable oil should work here too. You're not really using that much of it and you're not worried too much about it burning because we're not searing the fish in a bunch of oil. So now that this fish has been patted dry, I'm gonna go ahead and season up the other fillets that were not marinated. So remember we have the rockfish and the sockeye salmon. I have just, again, olive oil. Gonna put a layer of that on the sockeye and the rockfish. I'm gonna keep the sockeye salmon super simple here because we're gonna top it with like a fresh sauce afterward. Salt on both of those. The halibut isn't gonna need it at this point. I'm just gonna give those a little bit of a turn here so that I have olive oil on all sides. And then for the rockfish, I think that rockfish is excellent with a bold sauce or seasoning on it. I just have some like, I don't even know what kind of seasoning mix is in here. I tasted it, it tasted good. But when you don't label things, it's really easy to forget what is in all of your tiny cute jars. I'm just putting a dry rub on the rockfish here and gonna give that a little bit of a turn. By the time we're done dressing these up, I'll have one fillet that's marinated, one that is just super simple, salt, pepper, oil, and then another one that's kind of like in a dry rub. I think rockfish is excellent with a really bold seasoning. It also makes it a little bit maybe easier to grill even. A lot of that is gonna come to life with the really direct high heat. So it's gonna be a really delicious charred color afterward. The marination on the halibut, I think, is critical for halibut when you're grilling it. Halibut can be quite dry, especially when you overcook it. So that's going to help protect the halibut from becoming like a dry pork chop. Basically, it's going to stay a little flakier. And the salmon, it's the fattiest piece of fish we have on this plate here. This is going to be perfect as long as we cook it perfectly. So hot grill, we can see what the temperature is. Yep, we're still looking good. Now, moment of truth. This is a tip that I've learned just from trial and error. When you're putting fish onto the grates, I would not put it on straight up and down necessarily, like this halibut fillet. I wouldn't put it on horizontally. I would put it on diagonally like that. And same with the sockeye, although this is a bit more of like a rectangle here. The reason I'm doing this is that it's going to be a little bit easier to get it off of the grates because you're going to be using the grates as kind of like a landing area for your spatula. When the fish gets super flaky, if you have things on there horizontally, it's going to come onto your spatula like a hot dog and probably fall apart. If you put it on a little diagonally, it's kind of like the diagonal shape of the spatula. It'll just make it a little bit easier to turn. I've put this on at like maybe 312 my time. I'm gonna let these grill undisturbed for 3 whole minutes. It's gonna feel like forever. You're gonna want to fuss with it and you're gonna be maybe stressing about if they're gonna stick to the grill or not, but they're not, trust me. As soon as these are ready to flip, they will release themselves from the grates and it's gonna be effortless. You might even be able to see here like the halibut is like bonding to the surface of the grates. That looks like it's scary and that it's never going to come off. As soon as it's ready to flip, all of that protein will kind of seal off. It's kind of like searing a fillet of fish. You don't want to move it until it's ready to release itself. If you try it before then, it's going to get really, really torn up and you're going to either lose the fish in the grates or just kind of have like ugly fish, maybe ugly but delicious. But the skin on the salmon is where a lot of the fats are. Even if you don't end up eating the grilled salmon skin at the end, it's just like cooking it in any other source of heat. You want to leave that on there. I'm going to go ahead and flip these now. The salmon skin, hopefully, is not sticking to the grill. I lost a little bit of it, but that's okay. It's kind of like an extra layer to give you a little extra insurance. Everything else on the salmon looks perfect to me. So next fish is the halibut, which is giving me a little bit of anxiety because I'm losing a tiny bit of the fish, but not to be worried. That looks otherwise perfect. We only lost a little bit on that grate there. And now let's try the rockfish, even though I put it on a little awkwardly. This one's coming off super easily. Perfect. I love using a fish spatula for this. This is a very small fish spatula. If you want to give your hands a little more distance, you can look for a longer fish spatula. I like this one because I usually end up cooking indoors and having like an extra long one makes me feel a little bit like a wizard. So using this on the grill though doesn't bother me as long as I'm not, reaching over everything. So I'm only letting this cook maybe for another minute on the salmon and the rockfish. The halibut probably should be done in about a minute as well. So that's a total of 4 minutes on a very hot grill. It's gonna go ahead and turn the grates off. If you need to cook it any longer than that, you can just leave it on the grill off the heat a little bit longer. You can also let the fish rest for maybe 5 minutes after you've taken them off the heat. Because this is such a high heat source, there's gonna be plenty of carryover heat as the fish sits there. It's gonna continue to cook through just by a few degrees, but that might be the exact few degrees you need. So let me take the rockfish off because this is the thinnest fillet here and likely done. Rockfish is incredibly flaky, so don't be surprised if it breaks in half. The halibut should come off a little bit easier here. Beautiful grill marks on that. Salmon comes off effortlessly. Let me go ahead and flip that. And I'll show you, if you can see, how the grill is really not like covered in fish. We have a little bit of salmon skin there, some minor sticking on other parts of it, but otherwise the fish are very much intact. We have a delicious plate of grilled seafood cooked in probably 4 minutes, maybe a little bit longer if I was chatting for a little bit longer. If you are not able to do this on a grill outside, this is very much the same technique that you're going to use indoors on a cast iron grill pan. You might need a minute or 2 extra on either side, but when you're using a grill like this, 2 minutes aside might be all you need. So these look pretty beautiful and good to me. I mean, the halibut, I didn't quite stick the landing, but this is probably like an 8 out of 10. The salmon, it might be rare. Let's see. It also might be the coloring here because we're in the sun, but I'm looking at it right now. And to me, this is a perfect medium rare in my book. It's a little bit translucent here. If you want to leave it on a little bit longer, you can. To me, that is absolutely perfect. Just a beautiful medium rare. I love cooking sockeye, specifically on the grill, more so than coho, but that is perfect. Like I said, if you want to have it cook a little bit longer so that it's cooked more through, what I would do is move it off of the flame, maybe even turn the grill off and just let it finish cooking on the grill instead of that residual heat that is coming from the metal. Salmon is perfect. I love serving grilled salmon with just like a little bit of a sauce on on it once it's been grilled. I made something like a chimichurri earlier, just like a fresh herb garlic thing. So that is going to be how I end up enjoying this. And it looks so beautiful when you have some fresh greens on sockeye, just like that. You can have it on the side. You don't need to cook it with anything on it. However, if you want to marinate salmon, you absolutely can. It's just going to make it more delicious and give you more options to cook with. With halibut, like I said, it tends to dry out very, very quickly. So I prefer to grill this only when it's been marinated. But you know, that is up to personal preference as well. This is perfectly flaky on the inside here. It's coming off in these big, gorgeous flakes. And it's juicier than if you had not marinated it at all. That being said, if you have like a nice saucy, like cucumber sauce, something that's like very moist, that can go with halibut when you decide not to marinate it. It just might be dry, so I would err on the side of cooking it less rather than more. The green sauce recipe I'm going to be sharing next week because I'm doing marinades and sauces as our event next Wednesday. The rockfish with this mystery spice rub on it that I can't remember what it is like this beautiful kind of almost burnt-ish delicious grilled charred color, which I absolutely love. I think there was some sugar in here. So it really picks up that heat and flavor and vibrancy. Works perfectly with the rockfish. Rockfish has kind of a strong flavor itself in terms of whitefish, which I know not everyone loves, but on the grill with a really potent dry rub, it's stunning. For next week, I mentioned this earlier, we're going to do a little more grilling fun. It might be here. It might be on my new Ninja grill if I can figure out how to use it. Nothing fancy, just really delicious summertime sauces and marinades to kind of have in your back pocket so that you can have some fish grilling and then, you know, something to serve with it after. So hope to see you there. Live wild.